Welcome, boys and girls, to our science for today, and it's getting to know 15 common birds that are probably in your backyard. And many of us are looking at birds through our window because we're supposed to stay inside, and I hope you're all practicing that safe distancing. But in the meantime, there's a lot of stuff going on outside your window. Have you ever looked at a bird and wondered what type it might be? So yesterday I asked you guys to watch a video about bird beaks and how they're used to get food and what type of food that they eat based on their beaks. So some have long pointy noses and they're getting insects out of wood or picking worms out of the dirt, and some have sharp curved beaks that will rip apart things if they're predators. So right now birds are out there making nests, and they're getting materials, they're collecting them from the yard to make these nests to lay their eggs. So when you're watching these birds, what type of materials are they picking out? Are they picking sticks up, grass up? And where are they flying to make these nests? Like, keep an eye on them, watch and see what kind of birds they are. Sketch them and put this in your nature journal and see what's going on. Now, in this slide, I have a picture of two birds. The upper ones are a black vulture, and you see them gliding around the skies. They're very beautiful birds, and they love to hang on the wind. The bird below is a hawk, and there are many types of hawks. This is a red tail, and this is a predator, and it eats mice and other types of vermin that might do damage to crops otherwise. So they're very good birds. They eat things that we don't want in our house, and often you see them hanging on trees around Route 1 if you're going up and down Route 1. So this is two pictures, and these are northern cardinals. The one side is a male cardinal and the other side's a female cardinal. Now, they're very common, brightly colored birds you often see sometimes around evergreen trees. They love sunflower seeds. They have a distinctive little chirping noise. So if you hear that sound, you might think, gosh, there might be a cardinal around. Another type of popular bird is a blue jay, and you would know them because they have such a loud voice. They're very noisy. They're busybody. They let all the birds know if there's a hawk around or if they need protection. And here's what they sound like. And I'm sure everyone has heard that sound. Now, in this picture, we show mourning doves. And they look very similar to pigeons that you would see in the city, but they're not. They're actually mourning doves, and they have a very sad type of sound to them. And I'll play that sound for you. Some people think that sound is an owl, but it's not. It's actually a mourning dove, and owls have a different sound altogether. Now, this bird is an American crow. Crows are very smart birds. They love corn, so they can present damage, often digging seeds up and causing farmers to have to replant. But they are smart birds, and they can remember where they get things, and they like shiny little objects, and some people even say they bring them presents. A crow sounds like this. I know you've heard this sound before. Now, another very common bird that I know you've all seen too is a European starling. They have black, iridescent color feathers. They sometimes look kind of greasy, and sometimes they have like little white spots or yellow spots on them. And they're a very common bird that you would see around this area. And their sound is something like this. It's a very soft kind of sound. Next, we have a wintertime bird called a junco. They love to eat seeds underneath the bird feeders, and sometimes they migrate and go somewhere else in the summer, but usually they're generally a year-round bird, and you can find them in the woods. They have a little song like this. Sometimes if you listen for the sounds, you'll start to learn what birds are outside your window. This is a black-capped chickadee. They're very common around this area. They have a smaller cousin called a Carolina chickadee. And they're very fast little busy birds. They look so adorable. They're very small. And I'm sure you've seen these out your window. This is an American robin. They're the first birds to come to Pennsylvania, usually in the spring. They get up first thing in the morning and they start singing, and they sing until the sun goes down. Generally, they eat worms. They also will make nests out of mud, and they have like bluish turquoise color eggs. So I'm sure you're seeing these birds right now making nests out there. Oh, and one more thing. This is what a robin sounds like. Okay. Another interesting little bird is a white-breasted nuthatch. They're very funny birds because they hang upside down and they go up like spiral, like in a crazy design going up and down the tree. And they are very hard to see sometimes because they're camouflage, but they're very fun birds to watch. And they sound like this. This is a house sparrow. They're very common birds, almost like the starlings are. They are very territorial, busy little birds. They were brought over here from England, and I know that you've all seen these birds. They sound like this. So I kind of want you guys to get used to the names of these birds that you see all the time in your yard. This is a house finch. This is another one of those birds that you would see all the time. And if you see it, it's a pretty bird. It's a nice one to sketch if you want to sketch something like this in your nature journal. They have a little voice that sounds like this. Let me see if I can play it. So that's what. Here we have the American goldfinch, and these birds are the last birds to lay eggs and make nests in the summer. They make nests around late August, and the reason being is they're seed eaters, and they like to eat seeds, and there's not seeds in the beginning of the summer. You have to wait until after a plant produces their fruit that they're seeds. So this bird is comes around towards the late of the year to make its nest and everything, but you see it all the time flying around, and it's kind of like the native parakeet for Pennsylvanians. This is a downy woodpecker. It's a very small little woodpecker. Notice how pointed its nose is so it can pull out the bugs from inside of a tree. Now, a woodpecker, because it's banging its head against a tree trying to dig out bugs, has a very special head, so it doesn't mess its brain up while it's pounding its head against the trees. Now, it has a twin, the downy woodpecker, called a hairy woodpecker that's slightly larger, and there's another red-headed woodpecker that's actually called a red-belly woodpecker, even though it has a red head. Now, this is what a woodpecker sounds like. It's kind of a chipping noise, almost like a chipmunk or a squirrel. You wouldn't think that would be a woodpecker. Now I have a chart on this page and on the following page that shows common birds really to this area and really gets into more detailed pictures and names. And I highly suggest that you take time and look them up and check out the different type of birds. This particular chart is from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and ornithology is a fancy word for saying the study of birds. So I highly suggest going on to the Cornell website. This is part 2 of the poster. You can see the rest of the common birds, and there's cardinals and blue jays like we had gone over here just now. So I do suggest that you check these out and try to sketch these birds on your time off, and use it as an opportunity to expand your vocabulary and your knowledge of the birds around this area.